Welcome back to the HCT Winter Championship Finals Day. We have got there. We've played out 3 days worth of Hearthstone and we've just got 1 more day left. I'm Raven and joining me, of course, is Sottle. And we, in my opinion, I've got a spicy one right now. We've got Jing versus Bunnyhoppor, and I personally believe these are the players who have played the best in the tournament we've seen so far.
Oh, you got me racking my brains now, Raven. It's just a fair assumption that Bunnyhoppor will put in one of the best technical performances of the tournament.
Right.
It's kind of what he's known for, that technical level of perfection. But yeah, for sure, I think Jing's been up there as well. But let's focus in on Bunnyhoppor just for a second. And this incredible performance he's had this year already. That may say 2018, but we're counting that as our same competitive year. He is the Summer Hearthstone champion, which means he has the incredible opportunity to win 2 in the same competitive year.
Right, and funnily enough, I was talking to him not too many minutes before he was walking out to go and play just then. And I was saying, you know, just how are you feeling? And he said, yeah, I'm feeling quite nervous, but not as nervous as the top 8 match. Because, he kind of felt like, well, top 4 is a huge cut-off point for championships, because normally it is a world qualification. It's a qualifying win from top 8 to top 4. He said, still nervous. Not as nervous as yesterday though, so a little bit more relaxed and ready to go. But Jing, on the other hand, has been a pretty fun guy actually. Obviously, normally talk through the base of a translator, but I think he's a pretty fun guy to hang around with, and he's been playing extremely well and makes hearts in very strange ways.
Yeah, he also does heart emoji upside down. I'm trying to do that right now. I can't.
It's just the next level.
I know.
He brings Zulok and he does the heart. He's just next level in the whole competition right now.
Yeah, and I think that Zoo deck is a big talking point of his lineup. And, another couple of players have really shouted it out and said that it was a great call to bring to this tournament in terms of part of an aggro lineup. And I'm very happy to see that it's not been banned out here, because I love this deck. I would consider myself a bit of a Zoo purist in the way that Admirable is an even lock purist and hates the state that that deck is in currently. That's how I feel about Zoo. Zoo, to me, is a deck that's full of 1 and 2 drops that you tap every turn and you draw a card that impacts the board off your life tap. An Abusive Sergeant, a Defender of Argus when you had Haunted Creepers and Nerubian Eggs in the game. That, to me, is the essence of Zoo. And this idea of just, kind of an aggro deck with a smooth curve like any other deck these days just doesn't really scratch that Zoo itch for me, right. Whereas this version that Jing is packing with all of these 1-drops, so much consistent early game dominance, this is Zoo in a nutshell to me.
Yeah, I feel like because the Zoo water has been muddied a little bit in recent past, when I've been making notes about Jing, I'm literally listing his deck as 1-drop Zoo.
Yeah.
Because it's just the clearest way, I think, of explaining the deck. It's
right.
exceptionally packed with these 1-drops, but we can talk about that a little bit later on. For now, we do have a Rogue Mirror, but are these decks similar, Sol?
Very similar indeed. They're both the kind of pirate package deck that I took some umbrage with yesterday. I haven't really been too impressed with the performance, but I guess the good news for these 2 players is one of them is going to get this deck over the line straight away. Yeah, and this is going to be Tempo Rogue or Miracle Pirates, whatever, but if you just focus on the tempo aspect of that potential name, because the deck is capable of doing extreme tempo turns, mainly just with prep, along with potentially those eviscerates or even the saps as well. And you will see pretty quickly, based on these opening hands, who is the aggressor and who is the who is the defender in this matchup. Yeah, there is still, however, a kind of interesting balance, because cards like Raiding Party and Myra's Unstable Element in the deck, they're not what you'd classically consider tempo cards, or in fact, they just aren't tempo cards. But there's this weird kind of niche element of tempo where you have to have adequate resources in your hand to be able to maximize your tempo, right? If you don't have enough powerful things in hand to spend all your mana on any given turn, then you can't maintain tempo. And you see there you go, pointed out as 2 of the key cards. Unstable Element and Raiding Party are what allows this rogue deck to keep making aggressive plays turn after turn. And as you pointed out, that's where prep really comes into play, because that allows you to play Raiding Party or Myras without any significant tempo loss to yourself. And you can just keep powering out huge turns after huge turns. Right, and this is actually just a really big deal right now. Look at Jing's hand. He can even go Hero Power into Hench Clan, into the prep Raiding Party weapon and 1-drop Pirate, which will always be available because of the Dread Corsair becoming a 1-drop once you equip that weapon.
So the follow-up turns are going to be very, very powerful for Jing. But on the flip side of that, Bunnyhoppor also has his Firefly, also has a Hench Clan Thug, but then has Deckhand and Backstab, which can help sort of claw back some of that potential tempo loss.
Yeah. Going back to Odd Rogue and kind of the Keleseth Rogue that came before that, these interactions between the 1-drops, the early dagger, and then the big power 3 and 4 plays, the Hench Clan Thugs, the Vicious Fledglings, all that kind of business, these are really the key breakpoints in the matchup. It's who is able to make the strongest tempo pushes in these early turns and really get control of the board state. Things like South Sea Deckhand, Deadly Poison, if you are not on the offensive, those are the best kind of cards to be able to make a defensive kind of holding play so that you can then take control of tempo later on.
Right, and funnily enough now, because Jinga's picked up that second Hench Clan, he has multiple routes to success here, and I still think it's very much focused on that raiding party being prepped out either next turn or the turn after. So then you can say, well, if my first Hench Clan dies, I still have a weapon which will not cross over this dagger too much if he plays Hench Clan this following turn. Or you can continue the pressure with the minion if the Hench Clan lives. Bunnyhoppor just going there, toe-to-toe, matching there, completely mirrored opening by both players. Oh, the Deadly Poison as well. This is starting to get a little bit silly for Jing.
It does look like it will be a Hench Clan turn for Jing. The prep raiding party, is there any reason to do it this turn as opposed to next turn? I don't think there's any upside to it, right?
No, you really want to... Well, you're never going to play anything that you draw. So you want to ask Bunnyhoppor first, can you kill this Hench Clan? If you can't, maybe my turn changes. And then you don't need to give Bunnyhoppor more information by prepping Raiding Party this turn. You really want to do it next turn, because as I said, at worst, you can always play a weapon and a pirate every single time. So you are completely safe on a strong play, or... there could be weapon Deadly Poison instead, which then can also still lead into the Dread Corsair now. So yeah, I think you always hold it. You don't want to let Bunnyhoppor know what's up, and a Hench Clan on 3 with a dagger swing is about as good a turn 3 as you're ever going to get.
I think there's maybe a small consideration to another play we didn't really cover, which was Hench Clan Go. Without attacking. Like, the difference between a 3-attack minion there and a 4-attack minion is not enormous. It is relevant, but it's not the biggest thing in the world. Shadowblade being drawn from Bunnyhoppor is the big difference in this rogue deck, because then that gives you a further option on the following turn of Hench Clan number 2 plus Deadly Poison and delaying the raiding party play for a bit longer. But I think with that raiding party in hand, you know you're finding that Shadowblade over the coming turns, and Shadowblade, Deadly Poison, best friends at this point.
And also as well, that would have been on a 1 durability dagger, along with just Backstab. The dagger that's already equipped for Bunnyhoppor would have killed off the Hench Clan as well. So now it requires Backstab and something else relevant. And a Deckhand right now is very relevant, especially because Bunnyhoppor's going to have to also now use this coin just to try and keep up and do something himself. This is just a nutty turn coming right up now, though. You just already see the absurd levels of power that having prep raiding party early can create. I'm surprised it's just not jammed it. Maybe I do this too much. I don't know, but you get a weapon that always kills the Hench Clan.
I think he was probably just planning out, based on the 2 pirates that he draws, there aren't that many different combinations, right? So he can afford to sit down now at the start of his turn and think about what he wants to do afterwards, if he is going to go that route, which he most likely is. Because it's just general good Hearthstone practice, right? To make sure you plan out your whole turn before you start acting, because stopping to think at certain points in your turn can allow your opponent to get a read on what's going on.
Hello.
That right there is the juice.
He could even just not play these if he wanted to and save them for next turn behind the Hench Clan, because this might give, in a roundabout way, Bunnyhoppor time to kill these off. But I think either way, like, this is just very powerful in itself. There's not a real need to do anything too fancy, I would say. The only thing Jing needs to be aware of is he's just used a lot of cards in a very powerful way, but Bunnyhoppor just has more resources right now.
Does know that one of the cards in hand is a very low impact one with the Flame Elemental that will be, from Jing's perspective, probably Bunnyhoppor just holding onto it as a combo activator most of the time. So Jing has, you know, if you rule out that Flame Elemental, essentially, he's really not that far behind on resources, being that he is going to draw his 4th card going into his next turn, and Bunnyhoppor has 4 cards plus a Flame Elemental currently.
Yeah, it was more the point that Jing's on 2 with a Flame Elemental as well,
yeah,
so the knowledge is doubled up there. But yeah, I will say the Shadow Blade again, going to be doing, or have the ability to do some good work, killing off one of these for free, I'll call it, in terms of health.
Yeah.
And then, you know, lining it up to swing next turn as well.
Now Eviscerate draw for Bunnyhoppor is likely to be very, very relevant. That Hench Clan Thug coming out. And the fact that the Flame Elemental comes down might just give Jing just a little bit of a read on perhaps what type of card those options are. With you'd unlikely play a 1-2 here. It doesn't seem super relevant on the board state when you're going into potential turns where you need big combo activators if you didn't have other cheap cards in hand to be able to do that. So Jing might be able to piece together a read that there is another 1 or 2 drop hanging around in hand.
I think Hench Clan does not come down this turn, because Raiding Party continues to be sick.
What does it get you, though,
Green
for this
skin.
turn immediate? For this turn?
Oh, you don't care?
I care.
No.
Tempo.
Stop caring. But
I
like,
want to play my things, so they're in play.
It could be a 6/12 weapon, so...
You don't have to swing it this turn, right?
Then you're just playing a 3/3. Is that much better than a Flame Elemental?
Yes!
Okay, I was just asking.
Alright, Jing appears to agree with you. So I think this is always deckhand green skin,
is,
right?
yes, yes. Yeah. Which is part of the reason I said for... Well, you make the weapon all the time, because you know it's the green skin. So I think this is very powerful. And now he has deckhand greenskin next turn, plus a swing of a weapon. Bunnyhoppor's going to be dead in 2 turns. From Jing's next turn, should I say.
Yeah. I think I like the Hench Clan, the Thug still there still. Especially since, you know, the Raiding Party's drawing you a 2nd Shadow Blade anyway, so you can have your Hench Clan turn this turn, have your Raiding Party turn next turn when you're lower on tempo resources. And then you still just have another Shadow Blade to go off with the green skin after that.
Yeah, I think it's just time, because then you're still so many turns away from Shadow Blade Greenskin, and then Greenskin spent less time on the board, so it doesn't get to attack as much. I think the key point is, does Greenskin this following turn create equal to or as much damage as a Hench Clan the turn before would? And I think with the direct buff on this weapon, not having to wait to equip another Shadow Blade or whatever, I think that does end up actually more with the extra buff on the weapon. It's a 6/2 weapon. That's just over half of Bunnyhoppor's life right now.
I'm just concerned about the board state that he left behind for that 1 turn. His Dread Corsair was already contested by the Shadow Blade, and then essentially all he had was a deckhand and the Flame Elemental. But maybe that does play into the read that I was talking about, where Jing, you know, puts Bunnyhoppor on cheaper cards in his hand, doesn't expect him to have a very powerful swingy turn there, so thinks he can afford to take 1 turn out and then move on to this green skin.
And I think as well, with the way the hand is shaped up for Jing, you can very quickly bail on the minion tempo plan and go for the just kill 'em plan, which is one I'm a big fan of. Because just look at the damage available now over the course of 2 turns.
Yeah.
And yes, he's drawn Eviscerate, so that helps my point, obviously.
Yeah.
But he did have a 2nd Shadow Blade that is another 6 damage minimum anyway.
Yeah.
Without Deadly Poison, double Eviscerate, the deckhand he already had in hand, and a Leroy, and a Myra's, which is kind of all of them at once. So I think it's just...
I love the eternal optimism. Myra's, every card I want in my hand.
You have definitely not played enough of this deck, Sol, because that's literally how you play. Myra's draw lethal every game.
Okay.
I'm not even joking. Well, double of this is going to help clean up this green skin and also potentially clean up the next minion threat from Jing. So Bunnyhoppor's got time. The problem is he doesn't have any power to actually develop himself.
Right.
Because I don't even think this is a turn you can clean the minions up. Because he could backstab, eviscerate, poke with dagger 1/2 into the dragons, and then just Leroy face.
Nope. That's 7 mana.
Oh, he's on 6. I'm so dumb. Yeah, that's even worse then.
But I was going to say, I absolutely think that would have been the play if it was available, but it's just mana restricted. Can't even do it. Take 1, idiot. Take 1 again, idiot.
But there's so much life to play with for Jing. He can just ignore almost anything Bunnyhoppor does now. And So that is just almost guaranteed lethal. I mean, what can Bunnyhoppor actually do anything?
Yeah, he had it already, right? 6 from this Shadow Blade, 6 from the next Shadow Blade in the Eviscerate was already 16. And so the Deadly Poison just gives him like a little bit of a buffer if he also needs to get through a Taunt minion or something like that.
Wait, I lost you. Explain that again. 6 from this Shadow Blade?
6 from the 2 swings of the other Shadow Blade.
Right, sorry. Right, yeah. I meant the turn click, I guess.
Right.
But yes, you were right. I was like, wait, does that just buff his second Shadow Blade to a 6-2?
No.
That's just OP!
That's not how Hearthstone works.
Bunnyhoppor still just has, I believe, still has Dread Corsairs.
Yes.
So he could, you know, get Raiding Party and then try and chain into that, potentially. But that would literally have to be his next draw to just defend. Never mind win the game, just not die next turn.
Right.
And also bear in mind, Bunnyhoppor will have full knowledge that there's the second Shadow Blade there because the Raiding Party was comboed.
Yep.
So equipping it now for Jing doesn't change anything. No weapon removal in the deck, and there's no hidden information to hide because Bunnyhoppor's aware of it.
Yeah, I think it does. It changes some things in his favor. It gives him then potential to allocate more mana on the following turn to be able to use tools that can, you know, Vilespine Slayer a taunt, for example, and then still be able to push through.
Doesn't give anything extra weight to Bunnyhoppor.
Yes.
And SI7 agent.
Basically what we're saying. This play from Jing, very correct.
Yes, it's good. So Eviscerate into SI, or vice versa, whatever, will kill off the Hench Clan. But again, such low power level
I think
turns.
it's just the Leroy play again, isn't it? Leroy Avis, the Hench Clan, 1-2 and Dagger go into the Whelps.
Yeah. Feels bad because we can see Jing's hand, but...
Oh, he's very dead.
Yeah, and it feels bad even if Jing had a bad hand. But I think it's what you have to do something to make up this life difference. Like 26 Jing is on.
Yeah.
That's many attacks. And Bunnyhoppor does agree. But that's Bunnyhoppor going down to 8, nowhere near killing Jing yet, and we can see already just Deadly Poison into the Eviscerate is going to clean up this game pretty quickly and in a pretty straightforward fashion for Jing. The power of having the raiding parties and the activators that are so efficient at then creating tempo swings was just too much. And now, if you've not seen this rogue deck too much at home, you can start to see the potential power of those tempo turns early on.
What are you talking about? It lost.
It won! We could go all day!
Yeah, we really could, and in the future, have.
Very true. We've all grown as people.
That entire sentence was nonsense, Raven. I can't believe you let that slide. But 1-0 going out to Jing. The rogue deck does pick up a win, but I'm still personally most excited to potentially see that Zoo do some work because, as I believe Brian Kibler mentioned in the pre-show, it has been very successful up to this point over a microscopic sample size. It's, I believe, 1-0, 100% win rate over one game, and has picked out some bans elsewhere. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that Zoo in action.
Yeah, I only have a small sample size so far, but it's still a record I would love to have with any given deck. But Jing's leading the way versus Bunnyhoppor 1-0. We're going to see if this Zoo's going to get it done. So don't go anywhere, guys, and we'll be right back.
我是凌乱镜，虽然我是个新人，但是我足够努力，然后心态现在也放得比较平和，然后这次比赛我会就是把自己表现到最好，把自己的风格也会展现到极致吧，然后希望大家能够支持我。我的专业是传媒学，然后其实我学的专业和我现在现在从事这个炉石竞技，我认为是或多或少有一些联系的。就是我会把之前在学校学到一些专业知识，去用到竞技炉石，所涉及到的其他一些层面吧。比如说比赛解说，或者是做主播这些类型。所以说我还是蛮热爱我的专业的，也蛮热爱炉石。对。我认为就是一对一的这种竞技比赛是能完全的，印证，就是能够证明自己的实力吧。另一方面的话，我认为就是竞技炉石，也会给我带来一些 就是生活中的一些乐趣吧。就每次去参加竞技比赛，会认识到更多的朋友，还有就是和我一样足够对炉石有热爱的这种一帮热血青年。所以说在这个过程中也收获了自己的友谊，所以我非常热爱竞技炉石。如果我夺冠的话，我认为原因的话，一定是源于我首先最主要的是对炉石足够的热情和投入。虽然口头上说是运气，但是运气往往都会站在那个就是足够准备足够充分，而且表现足够好的那一边。所以我虽然一直在强调运气，但其实我更多的是在比赛中尽量的把自己做到最好，然后我认为自己做到最好，那个所谓的运气就会偏向你这边。
When I was doing my PhD and Hearthstone, I was usually just working like 9 to 5, and then in the evenings I would go and play ladder and practice for tournaments. But then I'd also try to spend some time with my girlfriend. On the weekends that she was working, I'd play like basically, I don't know, 24 hours of Hearthstone in a whole weekend. I've made some pretty good friends from playing Hearthstone throughout very different countries, people that I like personally think very much of, and I'm quite happy to have made these friends. In Cologne we say mal 5 gerade sein lassen, which means just let 5 be an even number and, you know, just get on with it. You move on and you go, because you know you're going to be happier if you don't argue about whatever that is. And even though I've been in the competitive Hearthstone scene for quite a long time, I think winning the last championship is really something that put me right in the middle of other really good players that are just competing at the highest level and feeling even more included in this community, because most people in there are very nice and you talk to pretty much everybody. I've been in the competitive Hearthstone scene for almost 3 years now, but yeah, being able to win the championship has kind of benefited even more people come actively forward to talk to me rather than me reaching out to others.
We are back with semi-final number 2 of the day. It is Bunnyhoppor versus Jing, and Jing currently leading the way, starting off with that rogue mirror, and mirrored in actual archetype as well, but Jing just getting too much of an early tempo gain and really using it to hammer it home.
Yeah, the access to that prep was really just night and day, just allowed him to essentially gain a lead in one turn that he then never let go of his stranglehold on. But I believe the procession of mirror matches is going to continue for now, and after Jing asserted his dominance over the rogue class, we're going to be taking a quick diversion to Hunter x Hunter.
Nice. Something I still need to watch, by the way.
Okay.
So don't throw any more references my way.
Okay. Noted.
Yeah, so it's going to be a mirror match in terms of archetype. There are a few differences, and it's the difference between Bunnyhoppor 1 Unleash the Hounds, Jing 2 Unleash the Hounds, but Jing 1 Dire Frenzy versus Bunnyhoppor's 2 Dire Frenzies. So all the cards are there. It's just the differences between 1s and 2-ofs, basically. So we'll see probably a very similar matchup be played out.
Yeah, I would expect so. And this Hunter has really been one of the big talking points of the tournament so far, as it's been, was perhaps a little bit disrespected early on, and then as the tournament went on, it started to flex its massive win rate and then pick up a couple more bans than it was early on as we got into the later stages of the tournament. I believe Frodan and Kibler were even talking in the previous series how they expected, based on lineups, that maybe Quest Rogue would be the ban for the players involved, but it ended up being the Hunters because of how it's demonstrated its power throughout this tournament.
It's one of the weird things, isn't it, when you look at lineup strategies and ban strategies, there's always a, oh, I have this ban in mind because my decks will struggle versus this deck, right? That's the general aspect. Well, the problem is when you've got a deck or a class or an archetype that just generally performs very well, well, that hits everyone's lineup because the deck's that powerful, right? So it feels like maybe players should have deviated a bit more from general Hearthstone ban strategy to this deck's just really good.
Right.
Should I just not play against it, as opposed to my lineup might struggle versus another deck? And
it can never quite be that simple either, because you can come into a tournament saying, okay, this is the archetype I want to ban, but then for a specific lineup against a specific player, you know, you might be like, oh, well, you know, I'm planning to ban Quest Rogue, but this one doesn't play Fan of Knives, so I'll leave it up, for example.
Exactly,
Or like this Hunter, I'm happy beating Hunter. Oh, wait, he's playing Nerubian Unravelers in his Hunter. Maybe that makes it so bad that I have to ban it. You know, you always have to be able to pick up on those little twists in the deck lists and be able to ban on the fly.
Yep, execution does also go hand in hand with prep and planning in this game. Let's have a look. Both the Scavenging Hyenas in both players' hands now, but I will say the big difference for me, and it's almost already reminded me of the previous game, is Master's Call in Jing's hand versus not in Bunnyhoppor's hand. And Master's Call, you can equate very similar to, say, prep or just Raiding Party in general.
It draws you 3 bad cards that come together to make one beautiful whole.
Oh, okay. I had to think about that one for a second.
W-H-O-L-E.
I was like, where is Sottle going with this reference? Because I will not follow him down that path.
Shut your beautiful hole.
Nope, not following.
Okay.
So, moving on. Bunnyhoppor can just play out a Hyena, and there are limited things that Jing can actually do about that. But also, there's also extremely limited follow-up from Bunnyhoppor as well. There is no links in hand, for example, to start trading off some minions and generating the value of the Hyena in terms of its gaining stats.
Yes. Awkward kind of hand for Bunnyhoppor, though. He's really got kind of a late-game-ish hand, the kind of hand that you'd want to be holding in a much more controlling matchup than where this is kind of tempo-based. And Deathstalker Rexar actually in this matchup can often be a costly card for you to have in your hand. I think there's been a lot of discussion recently about whether it's even a mulligan keep. Some players this tournament have ended up keeping it. But for me, this is a tempo matchup, and Deathstalker Rexar is one of those cards. When I was talking in the previous game about how you do need resources to turn into tempo, Deathstalker Rexar does do that very effectively, but it also does it very slowly. It takes 3 or so turns to be able to transform all those resources into tempo.
I greatly dislike a Rexar keep in this matchup. I feel like if your hand doesn't include Master's Call, then throw Rexar away for Master's Call, because it actually just does a better job quicker. We'll say as well, just to highlight in Jing's hand now on that draw, the Bear Shark is the one card that doesn't exist in Bunnyhoppor's deck at all. Jing just running the one-off Bear Shark, maybe it's just annoyance, and maybe a nod to this matchup with flanking strikes not really being able to be used to deal with it.
Very true. Diamol really not solving many problems for Bunnyhoppor right now.
Yeah, when all I've got to say about it really is it's better than nothing. It's not really high praise coming in, is it?
I mean, there's an argument that it even isn't, because one thing that you'll be scared of here for Bunnyhoppor, when Jing goes pass on 2, you're very suspicious that, okay, he can't really make any board that competes with this Hyena right now, so he's probably just going to want to flanking strike it on the next turn. If you just play a Diamol and then Jing goes coin flanking strike on your 2-2, the Wolf then just gets to eat the Diamol for free afterwards as well, and you just ended up throwing away a Diamol, because it's not like you have a turn 4 follow-up to that Diamol either.
No, but you do have a lot of draws that create that, right? Dire Frenzy, Flanking Strike draw, even a Razor Maw can make use of this Diamol or
That's
help that it's there. And when you've got an opening hand like this for Bunnyhoppor, you kind of just have to presume you're going to get those good draws soon, because they're very quickly becoming the only draws left in the deck. But I will say, Coin Flanking Strike does look decent to me. Also, something to note as well that maybe, or at least I feel doesn't get discussed enough in this matchup, is Dire Frenzy does not have to be aimed at a friendly beast. So you can aim it on your opponent's beast. It is at unique moments that happens, but it is just something to bear in mind, especially if Rexar comes into it. If you can kill off something, but Dire Frenzy it first, so then you shuffle big versions of it into your own hand. It's a very niche, but sometimes it wins games.
Yeah, it comes up more often in Rexar battles, for example, like when you have poison minions, so you can Dire Frenzy, then poison kill it anyway, or if you're playing Hunter's Mark in your deck, I've seen it happen as well. But yeah, giving your opponent +3/+3 is kind of scary when you then need to trade over it afterwards.
I think there's just often so many beneficial effects that you can only target your own minions with. It's good to remind everyone that Dire Frenzy just says a beast, not your beast.
The only available on-curve play. It's actually not looking that good, is it? He does have Scavenging Hyena, Unleash the Hounds built up for a potential counter swing on the following turn, which with a Timberwolf on board at least, looks like it might be somewhat promising. Might just end up seeing that Bear Shark come into play that Jing has teched into his deck for pretty much this exact situation. But then with the Timberwolf on board, that Tundra Rhino can then end up doing some real work afterwards.
I wonder if there's ever a case of trying to Master's Call this turn instead. Looks really bad, but you're quite likely to draw a Razormaw, I believe, based on...
Give up too much board in the process by doing that?
You do have Unleash and Razormaw next turn, I don't know. It's a tough one.
You have Unleash and sometimes Razormaw next turn.
He's still always rip it.
Again, the optimism.
Oh, okay, that's pretty timely. Because once Bunnyhoppor commits to the Rhino into high main, then he is running out of juice to a certain extent. Because although, yes, you can say Rexar's infinite, but there's still a whole turn to play it, and then you've got to create something, then you've got to be able to play it, the actual zombies that you make. So that's a long time to give Jing to just mess around. But it's just nice to just have it there, and Bunnyhopper's actually going to forgo the Tundra Rhino play, which... Don't know about that. I think I would have leaned towards just clearing off the board and then playing a plain Rhino.
I'm actually okay with this, I think, because of the likelihood of things that he will draw here. He has Spring Paws and Lynxes in there, and he has Crackling Razormaw, like you were talking on the opposite side, which are both just incredible against this board state, right? And now picking up the Scavenging Hyena instead, something that I didn't even really consider, just allows him to make a massively oppressive board state again, and can now back that up with the Crackling Razormaw on the next turn.
Yeah, to be honest, against Hunter and against an empty board, just a flat Tundra Rhino is a pretty oppressive board state in itself, as far as I was concerned. But
I think perhaps the worry is how vulnerable he would then leave himself to Unleash the Hounds. Coming back the other way, he'd have his 1/1 Timberwolf and a 1-health Rhino on the other side of the board.
Oh no, I meant trade the mole and the 1/1.
Oh, leave the Rhino.
Just leave the Rhino as a 2/5.
Okay. I can see that.
Because then it would have to be like Beast, Kill, Command, and then okay, high main. Now what, friend? You know.
Sure.
It was just really surprising to me. I often try to take any opportunity to just leave a full health Tundra Rhino on the board on its own.
Job's done.
I do see the Beast Kill Command play coming out though, but not on the Rhino and on this Hyena. Now, Bunnyhoppor at a bit of an impasse here. The Hyena by itself is very unimportant right now. He could just kill it off and play Rexar, but it doesn't develop any minions. And Rexar on 6 would then potentially either a hero power, which is 2 mana to leave you only with 5 the following turn to do something with, which means he couldn't play a high main anyway. It's very slow in my opinion, at least. I really like the look of either Tundra Rhino to kill it and the tracking, or just play high main and say, if you somehow make this Hyena big enough to really be a threat against me, well, you're incredible. Good job.
So that whole time you've been talking, I've been trying to imagine a world where high main into this goes badly wrong, right? And you're looking at starting with Spring Paw into Razormaw Poison, but then you still have to find a way to solve the 2/2s, because the 2/2s are still challenging the Hyena at that point. So, yeah, I don't find the world where this goes wrong, even in my hypothetical land. So Bunnyhoppor living more in reality, I think, is quite okay just dropping the big boy down to contest Hyena. Scar's just the boss of Hyenas anyway. It's just how that works.
He literally is not allowed to beat him up.
Yeah. Oh, they did get the last laugh though, didn't they?
Yeah. They also probably got the first, second, and third laugh, to be honest. They are Hyenas. They are known for it.
.png.
Wasn't that strong, was it? Problem now, I keep staring at this Dire Frenzy, but the follow-up isn't there this turn.
Yeah, it's
so
really sad.
I wonder if Jing just matches and just goes high main. Right now, what? Because now you've got 2 priority targets to deal with and not 1. And try and always stay just 1 minion ahead of the curve. Oof. I like it. I like this, to be honest. It's something I said yesterday. If you can't really make 1 turn you're super certain on, let your opponent decide the awkward things, because now Bunnyhoppor has to deal with the high main and the Hyena. That's going to be difficult without the use of a kill command.
This Tundra Rhino is looking pretty juicy. Alongside that Crackling Razormaw.
So what are you looking for from the Razormaw specifically? Because
So that's the big decision point as to whether you Razormaw on the high main or Razormaw on the Tundra Rhino. Because if you got like Wind Fury on the high main, for example, you could then make some really, really nice trades taking care of the Hyena first, then the high main, then the other Hyenas charge afterwards and take care of the remaining Hyenas on the other side. You have a completely fresh Tundra Rhino, whereas doing it this way around allows you to take that Wind Fury out of consideration, or the high roll that you get that Wind Fury out of consideration. This gives you more solid options just to protect your Tundra Rhino on board with Stealth, Divine Shield, plus Health, etc. And you can still do the same thing with the High Main and Hyenas to trade each other off.
And the way it ended up with Bunnyhoppor getting Liquid Membrane on the Tundra, which means that that's not going to be able to be flanking straight or kill commanded, and if you want that on something, it is normally the Tundra Rhino, as discussed a little bit earlier. But now with Unleash, and a couple of other little dudes, like you could just Unleash Dire Frenzy. Is that just good enough this turn?
I wonder.
One mana 4/4 charges are pretty good.
They are.
And there's Master's Call still in hand, so he has a reasonable likelihood of drawing one next turn anyway. And also, what else would you even want to do this turn?
Yeah, that's the question I'm currently trying to answer for you, and I'm not really finding it.
And I say it quite a lot, but there are so many Hunter matchups where you die with Dire Frenzy in your hand and you've had it in hand all game. I like just getting it down as soon as it's even reasonable, so then your draws become that much more powerful than your opponent. I like it. Really close game so far, though. There's no really no player that's in a clear lead. Although I will say the Dire Frenzy is a huge advantage. But on the other side, there, Bunnyhoppor does have his Rexar, which can be used to clean this board up pretty nicely. And then the follow-up with either build a beast to go for a big boy next turn, or just Razormaw the Razormaw and have two decent minions on the board.
Yeah, I think that Razormaw perhaps opens a few more options to be able to Deathstalker Rexar here because, you know, as I mentioned before, Deathstalker Rexar plus Build a Beast is a big tempo sacrifice. You essentially pass over a free turn to your opponent to then just load up the board. So Bunnyhoppor here, I think he's doing the correct sequencing. He's uncovering the concealed information first, i.e. what he's going to get from this adapt, and then he's going to make his decision afterwards between just loading up a high main and the Rexar to clear out the board and push some damage.
I wonder.
The Wind Fury here will probably... oh, he's going to Wind Fury trade
high
and
main.
play high main.
Yep.
Okay.
Again, that's why you do it in that order, right? So you can see which options you're being given off the adapt, make your decision on what trades happen, whether you want to push damage, what kind of stats you're going to have left over on the board, and then figure out whether you need the extra tempo of the high main or whether you want to get that fallback plan of Deathstalker Rexar rolling instead. And I think Bunnyhoppor makes the right decision here because, as I keep harping on about, tempo matchup, Deathstalker Rexar just really not a tempo card.
Also as well, if you go face with the Razormaw and play Rexar, then your plays are a juxtaposition, right? Because you've gone aggressive, but then made a play that makes you less aggressive,
Sort of,
which is very like feels a little bit backwards.
So I mean, so you can also justify that as saying that you use Deathstalker Rexar as a board clear that allowed you to be very aggressive with your minions, right? It's kind of like even Paladin just consecrating your minions out of the way so they can just go face with theirs.
It's a high mana costed Consecrator, isn't
It
it?
is, yeah.
Quickly.
I think now not having the quite equal power level, the Razormaw, I would say, that we've seen from Bunnyhoppor.
I wonder.
Still, the Volcanic Might is going to be able to just pump it up just a little bit to take down that Razormaw. The Diamol being played on the board is just as good as Jing can do, but the following turns aren't looking too bad. We're starting to edge towards Tundra Rhino, you know, magnificent territory of you don't only play Tundra Rhino, you play Tundra Rhino and loads of other stuff that charges and wreaks havoc on your opponent's either line or their face. So Jing can get there, especially with this Animal Companion too. So speaking of what you said earlier about using Rexar, this could be Unleash, Poke, Poke, Rexar of like Rest Face, which still pushes a significant amount of damage.
It does. It's a very similar setup to the previous turn.
Yeah.
I think also the Tundra Rhino is a good encouragement to be playing the Deathstalker Rexar here because, of course, the Build a Beast hero power can build you some very nice things to be charging out alongside a Tundra Rhino for 5 mana or less.
Right, and we're now edging towards the problematic area of Bunnyhoppor can just make the most aggressive beasts possible and just throw them all at Jing because he only needs to hit him a couple of times and then the game's going to be over. Jing could start with the links into Razormaw. This could be a clear in itself and almost reset the game. If he can land that poison. Which he cannot. Those suck. They're the even Warlock of Discovers.
Wow. So much shade. Even Warlocks are people too.
Are they?
No? I don't know. Sounded alright, so I said it.
Yeah, just think about this. That's what I think about the things I say, Sol.
That's fair. Alright.
And then imagine where you want to be.
Sorry, I should hold myself to a higher standard than that, Raven. I apologize to the viewers at home as well. I'm sorry for sinking to Raven's level very briefly there.
We accept your apology.
But it is a very crucial moment in the match that has just passed Jing by, as a poison there would have been the world of difference. Like, literally an entire 6-3 and 2 2-2s gone from this board's worth of difference.
Oh. I mean, pick your poison here, but I like Tundra Rhino with the Dire Frenzy on it.
You want to just giddy up?
Yeah, it's just face damage every turn. Because of
Sure
course
is.
you top deck each one.
I mean, with the tracking in your hand.
Yeah. It looks good to me. Bunnyhoppor, though, hasn't gotten to this point in his Hearthstone career by being rash. But does it see the line of, wow, overpowered minions are good.
Rhino's in, Rhino out. 19 for Jing, 11 showing, plus the Rhino from hand. If Bunnyhoppor can build a 3-mana beast behind that, or draws a beast for 3 mana or less, that is, of course, more damage.
Or, remember, flanking strike would actually gain 5 damage.
7, right?
If it's high main.
7?
Would it?
Attack with the high main, flanking strike the high main. You have a charging 3-3 from the
Oh yeah,
flanking
I just
strike.
can't add up. I just forgot about one of the hyenas. Incoming nerfs to high main, it only creates 1, not 2. I just can't add up. But yeah, same thing. You get the gist.
Right. Jing just scrambling to hold on here, and you can kind of see exactly what I've been talking about throughout most of this game, right? These players have both played their Deathstalker Rexar just as kind of a board control utility, but because the match is so tempo-focused, they don't even have time to press the button and build a beast, and there is the... We could have seen it! Jing, you monster! That would have been such a sick lethal, and you've denied us.
By using his own flanking strike with a Tundra Rhino.
How dare you try and win?
I mean, it's still 10. Yeah. Putting Jing down to 3. And Build-A-Beast still exists, though. Things can still happen. The game is not over yet. But you look at the life total difference, it feels like Bunnyhoppor has all of the time in the world, even if needed, to be able to finish off Jing here. It's not looking great.
Not sure there's any possible combination from here that keeps you alive, but I think you have to take Galaka so that you have the most mana to play with for like expensive taunts that maybe get you somewhere out of this.
Or do you take Rhino with a taunt, or hope you get a taunt so the Rhino can kill your opponent's Rhino? Because for me, the Rhino's a bigger threat than the volume of minions.
That's fair.
Because Bunnyhoppor can make anything up to 8 mana that has charge.
Yes.
So I think you had to pick the Tundra.
Yeah, you're probably right, actually.
To be honest, even Rhino with a lifesteal is often quite good too. So because you can maybe remove something and go for it. So Taunt, Poisonous can kill off the Tundra Rhino.
Still dead though.
And it looks though like with only 7 health, and most importantly is Tundra Rhino being Dire Frenzied.
Oh. So in the world now where there is no anything that can take advantage of that Tundra Rhino who is alive. I guess this is technically better than making the play that leaves you dead on board, so sure. But yeah, that'll do. Build a thing, play the thing, win the game was all Bunnyhoppor had to do there. Jing doing his due diligence, holding on until the very last. Why concede at such a high profile, high importance moment when there's a chance that your opponent's going to make a mistake? But when your opponent is Bunnyhoppor, the chance that they're going to do anything so foolish is slim to none.
It really is something we've been saying about Bunnyhoppor throughout the tournament, and to be honest, throughout the year, is that he is just a consistently strong player. It's not often we cast Bunnyhoppor and say, oh, you know, he played bad in that series. It's not normally the case. It's the only times things maybe slip a little bit is when things get very, very high level, very, very intense. Just like this series is, though, as it all evens up 1-1. Bunnyhoppor taking a win in the Hunter mirror and Jing taking a win in the Rogue mirror. And pretty interestingly enough, both players having very similar lineups getting to this point. Yeah,
only really just a brief difference in terms of what the unusual aggro deck is, I guess, in the lineup, where Bunnyhoppor has that odd secret aggro mage and Jing has the super low curve 1-drop heavy Zoo Warlock. So those are the real breakpoints potentially in the matchup. Yeah, and we're going to be able to find out if those are the ones that are going to make the difference as we progress through this series. It's Jing versus Bunnyhoppor. We're going to step away for just a minute, but don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back.
因为我就是这次的阵容是4套快攻嘛，然后我的 lineup 就是比较偏进攻性的，然后那么显而易见，我最害怕的卡组一定是就是抓快类型的卡组。幸运的是就是我的分组情况其实不至于那么乐观，就是劣势对局也没有那么大吧。快攻其实是我最擅长的一个体系吧，然后这就是自己在比赛里使用的，在大赛里使用的套牌一定是自己最擅长而且最喜欢的，这是首当其冲的。其次是我分析了一下这次16个人的就是风格和特点吧，我认为就是其实我用我的擅长的体系正常的去出阵的话，优势对局其实是要大于劣势对局。因为最主要的是动物园这个牌比较贴切我的整体的这么一个阵容，因为我是4块嘛，4块的话，我认为动物园其实是很贴切我的这么一个进攻性4块阵容的。然后这是第一点，第二点是我玩炉石的第一套成体系的卡组就是动物园，所以说可能我对这套卡组也是比较有感情吧。
I think since the most recent expansions, very control-ish decks have kind of gone out of fashion. The meta is forced to go either to combo decks or to aggressive decks to try to beat the combo decks before they can do their combo. I personally am more of a fan of control decks. I like to play them a little bit more. For these champs, I try to adapt to a bit more aggressive playstyle. Yeah, I think my favorite new card is Zul'jin. Also Shrivala the Tigers, actually. Surprisingly good, and I thought that card was pretty cool. I think a deck people underestimated is Pirate Rogue. I think it's a rather strong deck overall, even though on paper it looks a little bit strange. It has decent stats, but the cards in the deck have good synergy together. So decks that are good against my lineup are mostly Odd Warrior and Odd Paladin, but they're never together in the same lineup in this tournament. So from bans, I could potentially eliminate one of these two.
Do you think that overthinking hurts your play style?
No. Now, overthinking is something that I do generally and all the time. So I'm hoping to try to make everybody that voted for me proud by giving them the maximum number of packs, and I'll do my best.
the HCT Winter Championship semi-final number 2, Bunnyhoppor versus Jing. And our next match, I believe, is going to be the Hunter versus Bunnyhoppor's Mage. So we're going to see if Mage is going to get this done, because I absolutely love this deck. So
Why is that, Raven?
it's just cool. You just do a lot of damage all the time. But seriously, it does have very large tempo swings as well, with the variety of secrets that have been introduced into this style of mage. It's not often aggro mage has actually had multiple secrets outside of counterspell, and then the difference between entity and ruins has played within the past. But now, you know, there's cards like Splitting Image in there as well, which really messes with your opponent.
Yes, I think we've seen just in this tournament several very awkward turns where players did bizarre-looking things where the viewers at home, and even in some cases others sitting backstage, and the casters actually casting the match, were like, well, hang on, why is he doing that? It's because, of course, we know that the secret in play isn't Splitting Image, but when Splitting Image is a potential secret that's in play, you do always have to plan for that eventuality.
Yeah, and it has a kind of dual effect. It normally goes one way or the other, where it's either almost a resurrect effect, because the minion it hits normally dies. There's a lot of low health minions in this deck.
If you're attacking into a minion that doesn't die, you're already in a bit of a problem.
Yeah, and then the second part is if you try and attack into something silly like a Ragnaros or an Antonidas, for example, that actually isn't in this list, but yeah, they start to be problematic when you actually generate extra value on board and not only a resurrect / effect. But we'll see as we go into the game now. Let's have a look at these openings. The double Diamol open is never upsetting when you're the Hunter player.
The double face of fear.
Stargates of Luna might just be a keep as well. I don't know. It's a tough one. When speaking to Bunnyhoppor about this as well, the lack of Antonidas, which I'll just kind of say is a staple in the deck right now in the common versions, he said mainly that he thought Void Ripper just did way more in any given matchup. Antonidas is very doesn't often go off for many more than one fireball any given time, but I think the reason for that really is just Antonidas is just one extra threat you have to ask your opponent to deal with. But yeah, Bunnyhoppor was like, actually I just think Void Ripper does just way more in general all of the time.
I feel like Bunnyhoppor going first here probably needs to look very aggressively for a 1-drop, though. He does end up liking that Stargazer Luna keep, though, and does pick up the Secret Keeper to go with it. Baku filling the last slot is the worst possible scenario, though. It does look like Jing might be able to take a little bit of a grip over the early game, but just the power of that hero power is going to be enough to keep Bunnyhoppor trucking along, because the Secret Keeper in combination with that hero power twice can actually take out 2 Diamols back to back.
Yeah, and think about just the interactions in general, which is why I think this deck is so strong right now, is Razormaw gets played, it's already dead. Hyena gets played, if it's not been buffed on that exact turn, it's already dead.
Yeah.
So constantly Jing can't just play something, but oh, it probably lives. It's like, well, no, it 100% dies if Bunnyhoppor wants to kill it. You can create disruption that goes along with making your opponent spend 2 mana every turn, but when your opponent's against Hunter, they're probably okay doing that.
So Jing now has the option if he wants to play double Diamol immediately, which almost guaranteed kills this Secret Keeper over the course of a couple of turns. I do like that he's going for it. What this then means is you probably are looking to just drop Hyena on 2, which might look incredibly bizarre based on what you were just talking about how it does just die to hero power. But crucially, the way those turns line up, you make your opponent hero power it on 3, which is when they want to do many, many more aggressive things than that. You know, Pyromaniac, you see, Kirin Tor plus Secret, all of these possibilities that can potentially come down. So if they do that, your Hyena potentially punishes that option, and if they're forced to respect your Hyena, well, that stops them from making their turn 3 power plays. So I think Jing has recognized this opening perfectly, and I'm very much in favor of the line he's taking.
Yep, as you'll find in almost every odd deck that is an odd warrior, turn 3 is probably just the singular most powerful turn they have.
Yep.
All the 3-drops are very, very strong on their own, and they all kind of stack on top of each other as well, especially when you consider Luna and Pyromaniac all help drawing cards. Yeah, I do agree. I think he does have to play his Hyena. Mainly because he doesn't have an answer to any of the 3-drops that are played apart from rolling Huffer, which,
Yeah.
you know, if the game is going to snowball because you didn't roll Huffer, well, that is a risk you often do not want to take.
And essentially, if you want to boil down that whole explanation into a simple soundbite, it's if your opponent pings your Hyena here, good. Like, you are happy with that outcome.
You're probably more worried if they don't.
Exactly.
Because...
in which case, play it, because then you're punishing them for not pinging it. Victory.
Yeah, I think both players choosing not to take any real risks and making just the slow and steady plays. This Animal Companion could prove to be a little bit difficult, and yeah, that's the reason
big.
why.
So big, so important that was the Misha there if you're a fan of Jing, because it's the one Animal Companion that does just nicely contest anything that Bunnyhoppor would want to do here. Of course, Kieran Tor, you know, your Huffer can just get pinged off. But a Huffer would contest with a Kieran Tor mage. But the difference is when you get into the 3/4s and the 2/4s, the Stargazer Lunas and the Pyromaniacs that we see Bunnyhoppor has. Misha is the one option that just really forces that out of contention. And you can see how Jing just throwing out a Scavenging Hyena into the ethers has enabled him to be in this position, because it would have been a very different story if he'd have been protective, greedy, precious about his Scavenging Hyena and just allowed Bunnyhoppor to play a 3-drop.
Right, and I think, honestly, because we've been saying for so long about maybe the Chinese players just overall being a bit disappointing as a region in the HCT career this year, Jing, from what I've seen of him, and especially Yuying as well, have just been playing extremely well, as far as I'm concerned. And just small things like that continue just to display a deep knowledge of many, many matchups. Flanking Strike's pretty good though, and that's going to be good no matter what. I think, honestly, outside of exactly Kieran Tor counterspell, Flanking Strike was such a good safety net for Jing that this Misha gets even better, because there is the follow-up of, well, I can kill pretty much anything you play and still have Misha, which requires 2 pings. The only thing he has to be worried about is a Fire Eater now, which makes the single ping kill possible.
Yep.
I think Subject 9 looks good to me though.
Well, define good.
You need to do something to generate a tempo swing in the future, and Subject 9 does that because you have a Kieran Tor Mage in hand. So next turn you can potentially Kieran Tor Mage Secret, which could be anything from Rune's Counterspell, Splitting Image, Mirror Entity to create more minions on board, and so on and so on.
Kieran Tor Secret, he's got a secret.
Another quote I don't really get.
Oh, unforgivable.
You can tell me later.
All right.
And also the Subject 9, you know, if Misha trades into it, kind of good.
Yeah,
Save 4
actually,
damage, like, it's actually just a decent shape right now.
Right, it's actually relatively competitive on board at the moment. The problem is whether Jing can just say, you know what, have fun with all that. I've got a ton of damage, and you're a deck that doesn't heal. Like, have fun trying to take 3 or 4 turns to get back into this game state when I can just ship all this damage face turn after turn. He does choose to respect the board for a little bit longer and just preserve this repetitive damage sometimes from his Misha and 3/3 by throwing away 5 damage to remove the Subject 9 from the board. But he's still just closing in very, very rapidly on potentially ending this game.
Yeah, and I like this overall because if you think about it, with the mains he has on board, he knows the flurry of secrets are in hand. Runes, not a huge problem. Timberwolf, you don't even have to play Timberwolf to win this game, right? You don't have to.
Nope.
Then Counterspell, well, if you're scared of a Kieran Tor or a minion, which surely Bunnyhoppor has to play minion at some point, he can just unleash the Hounds, get it countered, and then Animal Companion for probably more damage. Obviously, board state depending, you do it the other way around. But it just means that Jing just has answers along with this hero power and the beefy minions on board. Bunnyhoppor's only on 16. It's going to take a lot this turn because I doubt he can remove any of these minions. Jing's in such a powerful position. And now it's just completely reasonable to just play an Unleash now. It either gets countered and then you know where you stand, or it doesn't, and great, you stand in a very reasonable position there, especially with the Animal Companion having sort of a 2 out of 3 chance of being very, very powerful.
Yeah. And do you think Jing has to pay any respect to the board anymore when he gets all this damage to go through again?
There is unless I'm being really dumb, there is no actual way for Bunnyhoppor to heal in this deck. So just keep pressing the hero power. You're on 30. Yes, this mage can do absurd levels of damage, but not 30 in a turn or so. Like, that would be insane. It can stack up tons of damage with Fire Eaters and the Clockwork Automatons, but the Clockwork on its own is 5 mana. We're heading to turn 7. It's just not enough time.
I'm starting to wonder whether Animal Companion might be the one that Jing wants to get counterspelled, if it comes down to it. Because the Unleash Timberwolf combination, or just Unleashing itself, is more guaranteed damage. He's going to get the bad news that the Timberwolf is going to get runes. He doesn't get to cash in that damage, but I have to imagine this is all getting shipped face, and yep, it looks like it is. The unfortunate factor is that that Timberwolf dying essentially cost Jing an extra hero power, which potentially means an entire extra turn of the game to get lethal, which can end up making a difference, plus the 5 damage he just took from the explosive runes. So maybe there is a very weird and wonderful world where Bunnyhoppor can find a swing turn here.
Yeah, I think the reason I was thinking about the double spell was just because there is no punish once you've played one of them, right?
I was just curious about which order you do it in, though, which one you wanted more, because you're on a straight race for damage, right? So if you're going to get one of those counterspelled, you might want to use the one that isn't always damage in terms of the Animal Companion.
But 2 out of the 3 times, it's a lot of damage,
and
right?
The Leok gives you as much damage as the Unleash does as well. Yeah.
But still, even with that, I'm not even close to being a misplay, but just a different style is just asking a lot of Bunnyhoppor. But with this counterspell now, he is relatively safe from just getting killed straight from hand, because he's already seen 1 kill command too. It's going to be the tester.
Yeah, Jing has a lot of scope to have planned all this out in advance. Because Subject 9 was played, he knows that the copies of each secret are available on board.
Jing has to start trading, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That Timberwolf dying on the previous turn.
That is actually really big.
That Timberwolf dying on the previous turn cost him so much. The difference between 5 and 3 is enormous. It's a whole extra turn.
Yeah, because Bunnyhoppor has 8 from hand next turn, which is nutty. And Jing is including this turn, 2 additional turns away from hero powering him down, because of 5 and not 4 health is huge.
That was a very, very rough decision there as well as to whether he wanted to play around the counterspell or not, because he also gets the information that it's not the splitting image by sacrificing the Animal Companion into the counterspell. Of course, if it wasn't if it was counterspell, you'd potentially want to hold that Animal Companion in hand for a Huffer out when you can draw another spell from the top of your deck to break the counterspell. But again, going back to that splitting image point, he has no idea whether he can attack the Lunar or not without first testing for other secrets.
So I'm wondering now, is double secret ping the most damage he can create? Wait, no. Clockwork ping is, right?
I was going to say, why would you play secrets instead of minions?
Just because there's still Tundra Rhino, for example.
Okay.
So you get runes down to negate a minion play and do damage.
Okay.
And then the mirror entity will gain you a minion. You still ping and still push 7, and then next turn you have Clockwork there and ping for 8. He has gone for Clockwork, but
yeah,
play the runes. Yeah.
Playing the 4/4 always represents good damage, so that does make sense. Unleash the hounds for Jing. He has lethal. He just has to work out the various implications of what this secret could mean.
I don't think there are any, to be honest.
No,
that's all he's got. He either unleashes this turn or he's extremely dead.
Or he explodes.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's going to get the very happy news for Jing that it was not counterspell. And guess what? Ice Block went a long time ago. No Ice Barrier either. And Jing goes 2-1 up over Bunnyhoppor with just the nod of the head going, okay, that was probably a nerve-wracking one, because that is the power level of the mage I was talking about, where it can output so much damage, just feels like almost constantly if you're not behind early. And Bunnyhoppor could have come back and won that one. So I think Jing is just like, okay, that one could have been embarrassing. So far ahead, put your opponent to 3 and then lose. It's just a horrible feeling to have.
And I asked the question, you know, is there any world where he needs to continue to respect this board? And my head was screaming at me, no, there's no way. But you saw just the effect that that one explosive runes had in his ability to set up lethal. And suddenly it was Bunnyhoppor who smelled blood, and he was the one just loading up, trying to set up lethal outs for himself, while Jing was scrambling from outs from the top of his deck. There were a lot, to be fair. Bunnyhoppor cut down the odds with the Tundra Rhino out of the equation by equipping the explosive runes, but Unleash the Hounds did find a way for Jing in the end.
Yeah, really, really close match there. It's a pretty exciting one overall, but he did get a win with that Hunter, and again, the question has to be asked, Hunter's only losing to itself right now. As in this series, you know, it lost the mirror match, but then it's just beaten the mage as well, which I feel is normally seen a good matchup for the mage, because one, you see how annoying secrets are, right? And that amount of them is, well, if it's ruins, I can't play this minion. If it's counterspell, I can't play all of my other cards. What do I even do? You waste a turn dealing with the secrets, your opponent should hit you for another 6 or 7. And then you see the level of burst that the mage can set up. Truly incredible. But potentially the finale here, as Jing only needs to win one more game, and this is the deck we've been talking about even throughout 4 days of play. You may have not seen this Warlock deck yet, because it has barely been played on stream, because it has been taken at so many bans from Jing's lineup. So let's see how it does this time versus this rogue.
Are you ready for some dispassionate reading, Raven?
I cannot wait. It's my favorite type.
2 Abusive Sergeant, 2 Acarus Veteran, 2 Firefly, 2 Flame Imp, 2 Grim Rally, 2 Kobold Librarian, 2 Saronite Taskmaster, 2 Soulfire, 1 Solarium, 2 Voidwalkers. I am most of the way through his entire deck now, and every card I named cost 1 mana. This is Zoo.
And are you ready for some very passionate reading? Explodinators in this deck! That's one of the not 1-drops, and it's glorious.
Yeah.
Bombs that do damage to face.
And
why not?
Jing has got a lot riding on this deck now. Like we said, we have not seen too much of it so far. What little we have seen of it has been very successful, but he now has a seasonal championship final spot on the line with this Zoo Warlock. But more than that, he has the right to interview our illustrious caster, TJ Sanders, which he said he would be willing to do if he won the tournament. He is a broadcast student, I believe, so he said he'd be willing to reverse the roles and actually give his winner's interview to TJ Sanders.
Yeah, and you know, maybe in I hope many years from now, when Jing's washed up like us, he could become a caster full time.
Nice.
And that'll be great. But I will say, you know, slightly more serious note, something Jing said is, yes, he is a fairly new name to the Chinese scene, never mind to us.
Right.
And he wants to prove himself, he wants to make his mark. Well, winning a championship you just rock up to with your own lineup with a very unique deck as well, well, that ticks all the boxes for me, Sol.
Smart play from Bunnyhoppor in the opening. A lot of people would just think, hey, see Flame Imp, backstab Flame Imp. That just makes sense. But Bunnyhoppor willing to invest a little bit of his health total into activating the combo on both Edwin Van Cleef and the SI7 agent. Those are 2 cards that he's going to want comboed. Right now he has 1 backstab, 1 coin in hand that can be used to do both of those things. Now he has a 3rd card in hand that he wants to potentially be combo activated, although not so much because he does already have the copy of Shadowblade in hand.
I'm just loving the fact that the nostalgia of me about to say on cast, but does he have to consider playing around Abusive Sergeant? Because that's a card in this deck as well. +2 damage from hand effectively onto a minion is something he has to consider if he wants to go for the Van Cleef.
There it is, the 6/6 Cleaver.
One of the reasons I'm interested to watch Jing play more of this deck is Grim Rally is a card that should be good. But I personally have never played it to the extent to make it feel worthwhile. And maybe it's I wasn't putting enough 1-drops in the deck. But it's just a deck that seems very powerful, but I just couldn't get it to work for me.
You can see just kind of theorizing about the hand, right? You can see the natural synergy it has with Explosionator as well, Grim Rally.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't have an Explosionator in the deck when I tried it. It's all coming together.
This is just a little bit awkward. I was kind of passing these breakpoints as you were talking about Grim Rally, and the Grim Rally here just doesn't really allow him to trade with the Edwin Van Cleef in any kind of attractive fashion.
Does he just not?
That's probably the best solution. If he'd have got that Kobold Librarian up to 6, I think this would have been an easy trade, right? That's Zoo 101. Yeah. Kill your opponent's 3-drop with your 1-drop, sweet. Keep on trucking. But since it involves trading the majority of his board in, you do probably just have to ship it face. No, Jing disagrees. And far be it from me to question, because he is probably the best player in the world with this deck, because as far as I know, he's the only player in the world with this deck.
A trait I often go for with some of the decks I create is going for that title. But yeah, it's a strange one, isn't it? Because Zoo, for me at least, the archetype, just generated the rules of, well, I have more actual attacks than you, and that's better than one singular bigger statted minion in general. And it's just strange to see like the actual more attacks trade off into a single slightly bigger minion. I am actually very surprised he didn't go that to face.
Fear of Shadowblade, maybe. He then loses that big Kobold Librarian to a Shadowblade for free on the following turn, and then doesn't really have the power to take on the Van Cleef after that.
Maybe. If so, very heads-up play from Jing. You just can't help but smile, can you?
Sounds like an idiot.
I've just never heard the sound of that card before on a professional broadcast.
This is not looking good for Jing from here, though. This is the point of the game where he really needs to have significant board control, and then life tapping into cheap cards just to keep on going as rapidly as possible can allow him to get over the line. But Bunnyhoppor here has got another big potential swing turn.
Right, the Corsair actually activating a raiding party if he wants as well is just quite funny, because it's one of the cards you also draw from raiding party a lot of the time. I don't know if he'll necessarily have to go for it this time. He can just drop the SI7 agent along with the Dread Corsair if he wants to just peel off the 3-2 and hold on to the weapon.
I quite like the Henge Clan Thug.
Yeah, I mean,
gives you maximum potential to solve problems next turn with, you know, Sap SI7 or the card you draw plus SI7 or Sap Raiding Party if you don't really need to answer anything particularly strong.
I guess the only thing we do agree on is we think Sap into the 3-2 is probably not great compared to the rest of his other options.
That does sound correct, yes.
Okay.
Bear's the strongest play. It's just the most stuff you can put on the board in a single turn. I think at a very simple level, that's quite often the best play in Hearthstone. I see no reason that turn would have been an exception to that rule.
Kelseth maybe just about turning up in time to have a reasonable impact on the game, I would say, in Jing's favor, as he will be looking to just press that live tap as often as possible.
You know how much I love sapping Flame Imp.
I was just going to say, feels good. It's so sick. And also just good this turn, because you still either have the options of SI7 agent to kill off the Kelseth without much to do, or you can just get that raiding party live, because I do like just slipping it in there while you can, because he does need more pirates. He wants the second weapon to be able to keep up with this tempo and board pressure he's gained. So I think Sap raiding party and just kind of just call it a day is actually okay here.
Sap SI sets up the most comfortable lethal for the next turn, though, I believe. You Sap, you SI the 2-2, you push 7.
Oh, with the Deadly Poison?
He's down to 13. You then have 10 in play plus Dagger Deadly on the following turn. So this is the line I like. Bunnyhoppor sees it. And I don't really imagine... I guess he's considering Fungal Mancer as a card, and whether he really wants to be able to leave 2 minions on board for Jing, but coming into a 6-mana turn, it's very likely that Jing can 1-drop plus Fungal Mancer anyway. I don't think fungling on these bombs is really the end of the world. Bunnyhoppor disagrees, though.
Yeah, no Defender Vargas in this list either, so there's not that to consider. I've actually, instead of just removing trades and removing taunt potential. Abusive Sergeant, it's going to add up some damage. Voidwalker can be a bit of a stopping gap there. But like, the problem is already now where else are we going? That's the problem for Jing. Like, great, you can survive for a turn, but when do your turns get better than just surviving?
No fear. Flame Imp on the board, down to 11.
Kelseth is helping make this board add up to a way more significant amount of damage. Because there's still burst available, right? Because Jing has access to 2 Soulfires, Solarium to help with that, the Fungomancer, and a Leroy potentially, as far as Bunnyhoppor's aware. We'll just put him to 3.
I'm a little surprised that Bunny took this turn out to go for the raiding party line, and again didn't just go for straight up max stats on board.
It's like an 80s action hero name. Max Stats.
Max Stats. I guess playing the raiding party there does give him the chance of finding his Salty deck hands, which can allow him to do work in the future. And especially if he's defaulting back to a kind of board control line here, then I guess this makes sense. Challenging some of the minions with the weapon. Solarium was about the card he was going to need to get out of this. Jeez.
That's a good Fungomancer, as far as I'm concerned, considering Jing's spot right now.
He could draw 13 cards from his deck that have a combined mana cost less than the 3 that he just drew.
If only Solarium was that good. Imagine it drew a mana cost total from your deck. Oh my. I don't see anything outside of a Fungomancer here being successful.
It has to be. The fact that he didn't draw a 1-drop to go with this is potentially game-losing for Jing, though. So the Flame Imp here takes out the Hench Clan, and the Abusive Sergeant takes out the SI7 and sticks around. But he's now only representing 7 in play with the Leroy in hand for 13 total. So another 1-drop coming down there could mean that he was, you know, an Abusive Sergeant or an Acarus Veteran draw away from lethal on the next turn.
Also has the mana to tap in Soulfire.
Yes.
Which would be exact lethal. We can see there's a Dread Corsair in the way, though, which is going to be a little bit frustrating.
Again, that's where that extra 1-drop in play could have made all the difference.
Yeah. You're not wrong, Sol. You're not wrong. I wonder if Bunnyhoppor ever actually trades.
You take away the life tap by swinging face.
That's true. Oh no, never mind. I thought he had 3 mana, so he could actually Shadow Blade trade if he's that bothered about health total or anything like that. But he doesn't have the mana and probably wouldn't be worthwhile on 17. You are feeling pretty safe, mainly because of this Dread Corsair. He's going to choose to remove life tap from the equation. Saronite Taskmaster does not look like it does it to me, Sol.
It's not there for Jing. Fine margins, though. A game that basically looked completely lost come turn 3 or turn 4. He was able to scrape himself back in, where with a better Solarium, he could have set up potential lethal outs for himself on that turn. Bunnyhoppor, though, drawing a backstab, might have had something to say about that on the counter swing, but still... a decent showing for that Zoo, where it did show that it can operate in the face of adversity, even when it doesn't power out that start, where it just goes 1-drops all over the place. Turn 4, I'm so far ahead you can't catch up. It does show that it has a little bit of long game, although, of course, he was very reliant on that timely Keleseth, as you pointed out.
Right, and you know, let's just bear in mind as well, as Bunnyhoppor did take the win there, he did Van Cleef 6-6 on 3, or on 2, was it, sorry, with the coin?
2,
yeah. So he did put a 6-6 Van Cleef out, and then still have the the raiding parties, and that, you know, you saw some
SI7.
backstab sap. So he did have a lot of the tools that are absolutely fantastic in any given tempo / aggro based matchup, and he still gave a good showing. So Jing's got one more go at it with this Warlock, but Bunnyhoppor has evened everything up. This is going to game number 5. I expect nothing less from these two guys, but we'll just give them a couple of minutes to get ready. So don't go anywhere, guys. We'll be right back.
And now it's time for the well-played moment. So what well-played moment do we have in store today?
A fun interaction between Tundra Rhino and a Hexed Frog.
Round number 4 of the Europe Playoffs Swiss rounds between Casey and Saihodel. Even Shaman versus that secret hybrid hunter. Blitzking was able to get him Frostborn and summon a Tundra Rhino, which also let him kill off a Rush Lifesteal Zombies that sort of gave him one big board swing. Casey was still at a high life total, but Saihodel with the Tundra Rhino was able to get a Flamestone Totem and put Casey down to 23. He tapped the Argent Commander with the Flamestone Totem on board, went all face with his minions, hexed the Lynx that was next to the Flamestone Totem. The Hex Frog is a beast, and the Tundra Rhino gave it charge to be able to push for that lethal damage.
Oh, yeah, it was great. It's a team effort. You know, Flamestone Totem gives the buff, Lich King gives the weapon to summon it back, Tundra Rhino gives it the charge. It was a really cool spot. What's important is how you finish, you know, in a game of Hearthstone. And being able to spot these unconventional opportunities for lethal or a really cool line of play is actually a well-played moment, TJ.
Every once in a while, we just like to be reminded Hearthstone's a cool, flashy game. And lethals like this are what make those exciting moments even cooler when players are able to capitalize on it. So that's why this was our well-played moment.
What?
I'm not doing this.
He didn't even get to hear my British accent.
Admirable, I told you the surgery was a bad idea.
That one creates multiple levels of horror for me, at least. I don't know about you, Sal.
I tested what the problem was. Everything seemed perfectly normal. What are you talking about?
Okay, well, I'm going to bail straight one. Wise words. I'm not doing this. And we're going to move swiftly on with this series, going all the way to game number 5. And maybe quite poetic that it's going down to the 2 decks that are different in this series.
Yes.
Overall, it is going to be the Odd Mage from Bunnyhoppor and then this 1-drop Zoo from Jing. So it's all going to come down to the one difference in the lineup, and that's just pretty cool.
Sounds pretty cool. This has been a matchup that's kind of fascinated me throughout the ages. It's been a very fine balancing act by the Zoo version of whatever the deck was at the time, having so much better board presence that they can dominate the early turns, right? They can use things like Abusive Sergeant, Acarus Veterans, create these breakpoints, snowball the board.
Yep.
But in doing so, they're life tapping, they're playing Flame Imps, they're doing damage to themselves. So then the Mage always has all this backup damage plan, right? So throughout history, there's been various iterations of these decks going up against each other, trying to ride that line. In the past, we've seen things like Flame Waker really break the equation in one way or the other. When Flame Waker was a card in Mage, Mage really took over this matchup and was able to dominate by saving up big Arcane Missile combos. Now we kind of have a kind of equivalent thing in that with Cinderstorm, but the one thing that Zoo has going for it is that a lot of the explosive runes style secrets, they can deal with very comfortably. Mirror Entity, Explosive Runes, and Splitting Image, the board-focused secrets, if you want to look at it that way, Zoo's very good at picking those apart.
Yeah, that is true. With enough 1-drops, Mirror Entity's never looking too hot, is it? Let's be honest. But the Argent Squire, I believe, in the opening hand for Bunnyhoppor, not a guaranteed pick in the list, but it's going to be nice just getting some work done in this one, mainly because Jing's lineup is just fully focused around these minion trades, and Divine Shield often has a lot to say about that. Look at Jing's hand, though. No shortage of resource generation with 2 Kobold Librarians, and also just the Voidwalker for a speed bump as and when Jing decides it's relevant means that this hand size is going to stay, you know, pretty wide for quite a while.
Again, game 5 here. Both of these players already qualified for the World Championship. Bunnyhoppor for some time at this point, but Jing having wrapped it up this weekend. Both these players now playing for prize money, for prestige, for the title of seasonal Hearthstone champion, and they have Roger awaiting the victor of this in the finals, the winner of this Game 5.
Already Jing just taking his time, just working out the implications of coin usage, I feel like. You know, does he want to just drop Voidwalker? Does he want a Librarian coin Voidwalker so he has something on the board and make Bunnyhoppor think about where his pings are going to land? And he just, in the end, says, if you trade him ping, that's okay, I'm going to keep this coin. Probably a small note to just having a Dreadlord in hand as well. Like coin into that maybe on turn 4. Might just be good enough.
Well, also, Counterspell is a card that exists, which makes holding onto the coin fairly relevant moving forward if he needs to use a Grim Rally or a Soulfire or something like that instead.
Okay, that's a good one.
Sign me up. It's the only play that retains a board presence against even just ping from the opponent, so Firefly Flame Elemental seems like the line.
It's yet again, we talked about it last time Bunnyhoppor played Mage, but it's another situation where if ping does come down this turn, then Jing's probably okay with that. He can keep going with this kind of assault all day, almost literally, but Bunnyhoppor needs to do something a little bit better and stick one of these 3-drops. Unfortunately for him, the one 3-drop he does have is a Black Cat, which is actually health-wise one of the weakest ones.
Still relatively competitive here. It does go back to that kind of nostalgia statement that you were talking about earlier, where it's really bad against Abusive Sergeant to play Black Cat here, but that's not really something you're used to considering in 2019. An Abusive Sergeant top deck here could just be straight up game winning. That's not it. That's the difference between an Abusive Sergeant and an Acaris Veteran. Abusive Sergeant used to be a 2-1 itself and was nerfed down to the 1-1 form that we currently see it in.
Right, but suddenly, you know, that nerf, instead of it going the other way, starts to look not as bad when you consider the position that Jing's in right now. One thing I'm a little bit upset about Odd Mage, didn't go the way I wanted it to, is Beast Odd Mage. And you play the Beast, Untamed Beastmaster to buff your minions. Look at all the beasts in that deck.
There are a lot of beasts.
Tons.
Yeah,
There's tons.
There's a surprising amount of beasts.
Especially with the Subject 9 style as well now. It just never ends. Chuck a couple of Stranglethorn Tigers in there and you're having a good time. But for now, Jing's going to work out how he wants to see this game even progressing, because the Black Cat might be weaker health-wise, but when you start adding +1s to Arcane Missiles and to the Cinderstorms and things like that, then the removal becomes a lot easier for Bunnyhoppor combined with that powerful hero power.
Yeah, you see now Jing using the Void Ripper creatively. He does get to make the nice trade onto that Black Cat. It does cost him the coin. If it was an Abusive Sergeant, it would have been as simple as just powering out all of his 1-drops, and then even really Arcane Missiles coming out from the opponent would not have had a huge impact on the amount of minions he did have. It would have needed Cinderstorm from Bunnyhoppor to make any impact. But Jing here using the coin perhaps even ends up with an even more powerful board state because the Void Ripper is resistant to ping, resistant to missile effects, and that's about the only removal that this Odd Mage deck plays.
Yep. Although the Fire Eater does make the chance at Fire Eater ping the 3/3 down and then the missiles to clear up the other 2 minions. That is reasonable, but if I'm completely honest, I struggle to not play Kirin Tor Mage Secret when I can, because although it's obviously just dead on board, the runes actually just deal with almost any minion. I think actually any minion in the deck is dealt with through runes, and it will push a lot of damage, so Bunnyhoppor is going to try and go for the clear. Doesn't actually kill the Arcus Veteran off with the Arcane Missiles, and we'll see if that's a problem or not.
And Jing has just played this so expertly. He's been fishing for the idea of Arcane Missiles for some time now, and now as you see the Arcane Missiles get used, Jing immediately goes reaching for those Kobold Librarians that he just hasn't been playing for the entire game up until this point.
And look at this already. Firefly with the Elemental and then potentially Grim Rally is going to make those 1-2s look pretty beefy, to be completely honest.
Yep.
He can easily sacrifice something else to generate this board. It looks like he might be waiting. Because 2-3s obviously just dodge the hero power from Bunnyhoppor and create just an infinitely more problematic board. But I thought he was just going to go for it. I thought that was a pretty straightforward one. But again, as you said earlier, I will confess, I have not played one single game of this deck, and Jing is bringing it to a World Championship match. So he knows better than I do.
Yeah, the fact that if you don't buff, there's just a 2-1 and a 1-1 on the board. Like, you don't want that trade to happen ever, right? Like, you're Akira's Veteran and the 1-1, but if you don't make that trade, your opponent's just going to make it for you. But I guess Jing says, you know what? I'm fine with that. You've used your 1 missiles effect. Why would I Grim Rally last turn when I can just play all of my minions and then play all of my minions again next turn and Grim Rally? Because he may have 4-drop, 5-drop in hand. He's very likely to draw 2 more 1-drops next turn after life tap.
That is true. And even at worst, he has Spellbreaker Grim Rally. Not Grim Rally, the Spellbreaker, but you know what I mean. He can play them both in one turn before people start laughing at me all the time.
I already did.
Thank you.
Many years ago.
That's actually just true now. We've known each other far too long for my liking at this point. But the only thing Grim Rally I'd consider is like Counterspell exists, and there aren't that many spells in the deck anyway, so you don't really want to just throw a potential Grim Rally into a Counterspell. And now it's something that Jing's going to have to consider. And this is one of the key strengths of the deck. Now, Jing has to say, well, I either potentially throw a Counterspell away, or I try and play around that, throw a Dreadlord down, and it might get runes.
Yeah.
And then I'm paying 5 mana, do nothing in my 1-drop deck, which is a nightmare of a turn.
Yeah, because it's runes, he will learn that it's not Counterspell by the time he goes to activate the Grim Rally, right? Because he's always going to play more minions first before he plays Grim Rally. He's almost always going to play more minions first before he wants to Grim Rally. Again, Jing could have a hand of 14 cards that cost less than this current hand.
And you know what? That would get in my head. If I was Jing, I would play the Spellbreaker now. Because I'd be like, I'm going to tap into a Fungomancer. Honestly, it would, you know, from last time with the Solarium, and now looking at this hand, I'd mess up.
Well, actually,
hold
honestly,
my hands up.
I think even, you know, you're so heavily odds on to tap and draw a 1-drop here still at this point. I don't know how many there are left exactly because he's played a lot, but there's 7, 8 plus, let's put it that way. But even though you're likely to do that, tap 1-drop's just a very bad turn now because you don't have anything else to go with it in your existing hand. So the thought of just playing one of these big boys, yeah, it's probably just the play that you have to make. And it's going to hit that explosive runes, and Bunnyhoppor is going to be over the moon with that result.
That's just a good turn. Now suddenly, the wiggle room, the breathing room of just, you know what? I'm ahead on life. Subject 9's bigger than a Kobold Librarian. Sweet. Next turn, more secrets, if I so choose. If not, Clockwork Automaton Ping or Cinderstorm Secret something. Right? Like, suddenly this Subject 9 unlocks so much potential, and frustration for Jing at that point is I have to see Subject 9, you have to play around every single secret. Especially because that one was runes, which is the 2 of in the deck.
What to do?
The big question now, is Bunnyhoppor just going to do this? If he wins, he goes to the finals. And if he wins that, he was won 2 out of the 3 championships in the year, which is absurd, but great at the same time.
If this does end up slipping away for Jing, you're going to have to go back and look at that Grim Rally turn, because it looked very foreign to me to just, like, not buff a board that big. Like, my natural instinct...
To 2 3s
as
well.
But as soon as he decided to play the 2-1s over just playing both of the Firefly tokens, you can see that he's kind of moving away from that idea, right? Because if you wanted to buff that board, you want the board full of things with a health pool that resisted the ping from the opponent. So he's found himself now in a position where this Grim Rally is potentially just never getting played. And yes, he's drawn incredibly poorly over the last 3 or 4 turns. But was there a chance that he could still overcome that adversity?
It's definitely a tough one, isn't it? See, the power level of Automata might just be a 5-mana 4/4, but pinging 4/4 is absolutely insane.
But you haven't lived until you've cubed a bunch of automatons and killed your opponent with a single hero power. I can tell you that much.
Feels good. And this just...
These
draws just go from bad to worse.
He's just dead. Leroy, trade your automaton.
Pass. And he knows there are... Maybe he's actually just dead to the combination of all the secrets. Honestly, maybe outside of the Subject 9 draws, Bunnyhoppor doesn't need anything else to win the game.
Flame Imp, 1 mana deal, what, 7 damage to yourself at this point? Yeah, that doesn't seem ideal.
That's what I mean. Mirror Entity. I'm getting the Flame Imp first.
Yeah.
Like, just 2 secrets ping is just an... He probably won't do this because he has the Pyromaniac, of course, which is a very nice minion. But he could. Just 2 secret ping next turn. 2 secret ping next turn. Oh, wait, you're dead. Insane. It's got to be runes, right, if you're kicking out 1. We've seen Leroy, so the odds of splitting image even going off anytime soon is low.
If you just Cinderstorm him and put him out of his misery.
I have often played Arcane Missiles for 3 to face just because I know it would go face. It's definitely not a bad play whatsoever, but Runes is so consistent.
Oh. Okay.
Is it okay though, Sol?
No, it hasn't been okay for several turns.
Things have been bad for a while now.
It hasn't been okay since he decided not to buff his 4-minion board and then drew 5-drop, 5-drop, 4-drop immediately afterwards. It's as if the universe was trying to tell him something.
Yeah, and I think the writing's on the wall now, and as I said, Bunnyhoppor doesn't even need to draw more cards. There is nothing Jing can do about these constant pings, and there is the concede. The Zoolock did not get the job done, aside from the atrocious draws, of course, but huge congratulations to Bunnyhoppor, who just continues to just play extremely solid, and he is now going to the finals of the Winter Championship. What an achievement already. What an achievement yesterday, the day before. But today he might go all the way, which is going to be incredible.
An achievement 5 months ago when he did it the first time. Like, he's incredible, and I hope that he does keep on going, and I hope, unbelievably, he does now have the potential to go to another level, because he is now, at least for the meantime, full-time Hearthstone, which he has not been at the past. Everything that he's done up until this point, he's done while studying for and achieving his PhD, which is just incredible. But at the same time, my heart goes out to Jing, and particularly to that deck. You know, I was bigging it up at the start of the series because I am a fan of that kind of low-curve Zoo deck. That's what I want Zoo to do. That's the kind of deck that I want to play. But it just seems without the Haunted Creepers and the Nerubian Eggs, like, it's so hard to consistently stick a board like that. Jing just falling a little bit short, but a fantastic performance from him overall. But at the moment, it's just all about Bunnyhoppor.
It really is, and Bunnyhoppor being my pick makes me very, very happy right now. But let's have a few words with Bunnyhoppor as he's standing by with Frodan.
Thank you very much, guys. I'm joined by Bunnyhoppor, who's got a second finals appearance at a seasonal championship out of 3 events in the year. How do you do it, man? What's the real secret behind your success?
No, bring good decks, play good cards, smack them in the face.
And play technically well, too. You know, I think a lot of players were looking at this, and, you know, they were looking at Jing's play in particular. Do you feel, like, did you have a good read on him in general throughout the entire series based off his plays? Because it felt like there was some shaky moments on his end, too.
I don't know. In the first game, when he started getting better cards, he started nodding a lot more, and I was like, all right, so I kind of know where I'm at, but, I mean, yeah, there's nothing to do anyway. And then in the last game, I have no idea what his hands cards are, but I was like, please play this Dreadlord, otherwise I can never win this game. And then plays Dreadlord, and I'm like, okay, we're in it again.
He had both Grim Rallies by the end of the game, and he had like a lot of the 1-drops, and then ended up going for those more mid-range minion setups, and then the explosive runes really helped you come back.
Well, I mean, this Zoo is a solitaire deck, right? It's like a single-player deck, but my decks are kind of multiplayer, so he has to interact with my stuff. And yeah, his deck just can kind of struggle against that, so that's why I didn't ban the Zoo.
That's interesting. Yeah, a lot of people have banned that Zoo Warlock. Bloodface even said that he thinks that deck could be the one that breaks the format. Do you agree with that? Or I mean, clearly you didn't in the sense that you let it through. If it was that meta-defining, you would have probably banned it, right?
Yeah, I practiced a ton against it yesterday. I went like 8-5 against it with Mage, something like 7-5 with Rogue, and then my Paladin kind of destroyed that. And then Hunter didn't feel so good, but it still ended up being like 8-5. So I was like, I'm not banning a deck where in practice over a decent sample size I have a positive win rate. I mean, the deck I think is really interesting, and it probably was a very interesting pick for my lineup over the Paladin, because it would have even pressured like other decks like Questroke a lot more. So, but yeah, I had Lita tested for me, and he was just like, yeah, it just kind of doesn't always get there.
Gotcha. My last question is that you're going up against Roger in the finals. Any thoughts about that matchup?
Had it before, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, he said last time he played badly against you. He felt like he should have won. Do you think that's the case, or do you feel like going up against him, you should be fine just like you are against other opponents?
I mean, I think he should have won that Questroke against Paladin game every single time. But I think my lineup is overall favored, so I'm feeling good about the matchup.
All right, you heard it here. Bunnyhoppor feels like he's got what it takes to be a 2-time seasonal championship for the Year of the Rave. Let's send it back over to the desk.
All right, thanks a lot, Dan. And yeah, interesting just hearing from Bunnyhoppor just his thoughts on that Zoo deck, and said, yeah, he looked at it, he had some test partners play it, and yeah, he just didn't think it was quite good enough to draw a ban.
And it kind of looked that way, to be honest. It looked like it was kind of a 90% deck, right? Like everything was just kind of together, but then there was just that missing 10% out of the deck that didn't quite work. The bit that I don't quite follow is that that's a single-player deck and his deck's a multiplayer? Like, what does that mean?
I think it's the new Cool Kids version of interactive.
Yeah, fun and or interactive.
Yeah, let's take a look how this top 8 has shaken out, with Roger battling through the top side there, beating Definition, and then taking down Bloodyface earlier today. He is going to be in the finals, and he's going to be going up against Bunnyhoppor, who beat Ike, and then, as we just come off the back of, taking that win over Jing. So that is going to be the finals for the day. That's coming up a little bit later, though, because for now, we are stepping away from this. As we talked about a little bit this morning, we've got some tiebreaker tussles.
Tiebreaker tussles!
Never doing that in my life, never will, so no one expect it. I'll always leave it to Soto. But yes, we do have some tiebreakers to play out. We have some spots at the World Championships to decide. So don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back with some more Hearthstone.